Dave here with Half Dozen Customs. Last night we threw a couple coats of primer on this stuff. I was really hoping to just scuff it and get some color on it, but it came out a little rougher than I would have hoped. That lacquer primer is not the best primer. It's what I used on here. I know it's not the best primer, but it's cheap, and when you're just doing projects that really ain't gonna go anywhere but on the wall, it's really no sense in using the expensive stuff. So it's just part of the, you know, the price that you pay. You use the cheap stuff, you gotta put in a little more elbow grease. So still cheaper than using the good stuff, but I'm gonna hit this with the red scuff pad, and then we'll do a light sand on it and just get out the gunk and you know, the areas that I'm not happy with. So, you know, if it would have been a new can of lacquer primer and I actually measured it in a cup, you know, 4-to-1 or 2-to-1, whatever it's supposed to be mixed at, you know, it may have came out a little bit better. But as you can see in you know, the video from last night, you know, the top had skimmed over. I had you know, dig that out with the screwdriver, and then I had to, you know, put some thinner in it to reduce it down some. And, you know, the can probably should have just went in the garbage, but it is what it is.
Catchphrase.
I used it. Now we just gotta get it cleaned up. Now I only put a couple coats of primer on here, so it's not very thick. So I'm expecting, you know, when I go to sand it, I'm gonna be breaking through the bare metal, which isn't ideal for painting over. That's what the sealer comes in for that. I'm not going to seal this stuff, but you always want to, you know, after you get this all sanded all flat, you want to blow a coat of sealer over it, just to cover up any bare metal or primer, or not primer, Bondo that might be showing through. There ain't no Bondo on these, but you know, you want to seal it again, because it's not the best thing to paint over just straight bare metal. So that's why most people seal everything. I don't always seal everything. I try and make sure there's very little breakthrough anywhere. And if I break through some major spots, I'll go back up, a little primer over it, let it sit, re-wet sand it down. I'm not a huge fan of sealer because, you know, sealer, you put sealer on, and then while it's still wet, you go on to base coat. And if there's any dirt or junk or anything that lands in that sealer, and then you base over it, and then you clear over it, and then you go to wet sand and buff it, wherever that junk was in that sealer, you're going to break through to it, and then you're going to have a gray dot in your paint job. So I don't like using sealer. Maybe if I had a super high-end booth, it would be a different story, but I don't. Got the Doggie out here in the shop with me today. She's out here chilling. She normally don't like being out here because she don't like loud noises. She's looking at me like I'm crazy, like I'm sitting here talking to myself. hitting it with the scuff pad, it doesn't look too bad. It knocked down all the rough and dry spots that I was worried about. I'll still probably hit it with a little sandpaper, but I won't go crazy on it. Won't need to go crazy on it. Okay, so this is just a red scuff pad from the automotive store, automotive paint shop. I think you can get them at any auto parts store. Amazon carries them. Different brands are better than others. This one I believe is Norton. Not a huge fan of them. They're kind of thin. They don't last long. But it's what my local paint store carries. They have a couple different types. They have red, which is the roughest, gray, which is kind of a medium. You never want to use red like on a metallic because you'll see the scratches in the metallics. So that's usually when you use gray. And then they have like a white, which is for when you're painting a raw plastic car bumper that doesn't have any primer or anything on, it's just raw plastic. You want to use the white with a little bit of some scuff prep, which it comes in like a toothpaste tube. You spooch some on your scuff pad, and you dip it in water, and you scuff your raw bumper with that. And then that way it scuffs the plastic, but don't put scratches in it. If you try and use a red or a gray, it'll scratch it. And then when you go to, I know that you want to scratch it, but it puts deep, rough scratches in there. And then when you go to prime it or paint it, you know, a lot of times when you're in the collision industry and you're doing those raw bumpers, you get them all scuffed up, you shoot a coat of sealer on it, and you go on with your base coat and clear coat. And if you do rough scratches in there, then you can't do that process. You literally have to prime it, and then you have to wet sand it all back down to get all those rough scratches out. And then you can go on with sealer and base coat and clear coat. So that's what the white is for, and then you can use a little scuff prep with it. Only time I don't use red is if I'm doing a metallic. I don't really use white. I try not to ever buy a raw bumper. I try and always make sure that it's primed. Usually the cheap ones are the ones that come in raw plastic, so if you get like a mid-grade or a high-grade one, they always come primed. So, but yeah, so I usually always use red on everything unless I know that it's going to be a metallic. Then I'll go to a gray. So. And I'm just going to sand this with some 320. Just some few areas. I'm just going to lightly hit it. It's 320. I think it's 3M. I usually, when it comes to my sandpaper, I only use 3M. But I don't know, maybe it's not 3M because it doesn't say 3M on it. This might just be some stuff off of Amazon. So I'm just knocking down. Last night's video I told you, like, my first coat on this thing was, the paint was way too thick. It came out super orange peely. So I'm just sanding it with some 320 to knock down that orange peel. I want to try not to break through anywhere. And there was a couple of dents in here too that I hammered out, if you remember. So I kind of laid it on a little thick where those little dings were because I hammered them out, and hopefully the primer filled them in a little bit. Now normally after you would hit this with some 320, you would go on with 400 wet sand and 600 wet sand, depending on what color base coat you're using. If you're using a metallic, you definitely want to go down to the 600. If it's a non-metallic, you know, white, red, whatnot, I think, other painters may disagree, but I think that you're okay to go over 320. You know, at the very least 400. But yeah, the metallics, they really show scratches, so you gotta take that down a little more. I would never go past 800. If you go over 800, like to 1,000, I don't think that there's enough bite for your paint. I don't even like going as high as 800. I don't like going any more than 600. But I know a lot of painters out there that say 800. So I guess at that point it's just a preference. I am not going metallics on these, so I'll be okay. Not only are we not going metallics on it, but I'm going to do a nifty little design on there. And when I do those nifty little designs on there, when people are looking at it, that's all they see is a nifty little design. They don't see little imperfections here and there. I mean, some people might, but most people don't. Their eyes drawn to the artwork. I don't even think I'm gonna hit these. Maybe couple spots. I think that one's okay. This one, that was the side that was up against this guy when I sprayed the way too thick booger on there. Doggie did not like that. Yeah, you didn't like the blowgun, huh? You ready to go in? I'm gonna start painting and you don't need to be out here for that. You ready to go in? Say goodbye, YouTube. Come on, sweetie. This is just some wax and grease remover. I use GON, it's G-O-N is what it's called. I get it from my automotive paint supply place. Got to be careful with these wax and grease removers. The reason that I use GON is because you can see it just cleans what I'm doing. If you use some of these other stuff, some of these other wax and grease removers, it'll actually, like lacquer thinner or lacquer primer, it'll pull it right off of there. This would be all wet, gray, nasty, and it would have messed up my piece. Base coats, it does the same thing with base coats. And I do a lot of artwork where you're taping with Fineline and masking tape, and your fingers are all over the paint, you know, and you can be able to wipe your fingerprints off. And if you're using some of these harsh ones that are out there that are sold at automotive paint supply places, you know, it just messes up your artwork right away, and then you're screwed. So I like Gone. It's not my most favorite. The stuff that I used to use, I can't even think of what it's called anymore. It hasn't been around for years. They stopped making it, and it took me a while to find some stuff that wouldn't remove the base coat. So, and this stuff you have to be careful with too. Like once you're done with all the taping and you go back and you do like airbrushing with some shadows, or if you do any airbrushing where the base coat's really light, this will take it off as well. So once you get that airbrushing in there, you're kind of done. So make sure your hands are clean. You're wearing rubber gloves, something along those lines, just so that if you are leaving fingerprints on there, you're not leaving grimy fingerprints on there, because there is no cleaning it off. So this is some Limco Supreme Plus base coat. That's what I use, is Limco. It's a little more of an expensive brand, but that's what I like for my base coats. This is just Galaxy White. It has a WA143 is the paint code. It's being WA, it's a GM color. That stuff that I sprayed on here before is Bully Dog Adhesion Promoter. You can get it in a spray can or in a spray gun. Oh, I'm leaking. Means it's mixed. Good stuff. I like using it between coats of stuff. Just make sure, I prefer using just a spray can. I used to use the stuff that you put in the spray gun all the time. It does spray out a little nicer. It's not as orange peely, I guess you could say. But it's just another step in process of having to clean your gun out afterwards, and it costs more money to get it in the spray gun style. Plus you have to clean out your gun, which you're using more products that just cost more money than just using a spray can. But you just want to dust one light, quick coat over it. You don't want to get it wet. You want to even coat over it, but you don't want to. If you see that it's wet, you put it on too heavy, and it can cause problems in the base coat. It can make your base coat do funny stuff, separate, cause fish eyes. So you just want a very light dusting of a coat. And it's almost like a glue in between coats. So good stuff. I recommend using it. Just be careful with it. Very, very light coats. Just dust one coat on, it's all you need. So my current spray gun that I'm using, it's off the Mako truck. It's a Mako Tools gun. When I learned how to paint, and a good portion of my painting career, I used, it was like a capital M, capital S, T-A-N, or S-T-A-N, M-S-T-A-N, or S-M-S-T-A-R, like an M star or M stand. Can't remember correctly what it was. It looked like it said M scan, but it could have been an R. I never really knew exactly what it was, but I believe it was made by Astro. And it was a good gun. I love those guns. They were cheap. I could get them from the local paint shop for $100. They worked great. And they lasted for years, but they were kind of a disposable gun. Instead of going and buying a rebuild kit for it, you just went and bought a new gun. And I used them for years, and somebody bought them out, and I think it was Mecco, because the Astro had the green ring around here just like this, and for a long time I still had one of my Astros, and if you held the two guns up next to each other, they were identical. So I think Mecco bought them out. And now they're a little bit more expensive on the Mecco truck, if you can still get them. This gun's probably 10 years old. I had 3 of them, one for primer, one for base coat, one for clear coat. They all had different tips. And 2 of them have since bit the dust and died, started leaking air through them real bad. So I'm down to this last one, and he's leaking air too, and I have to put it in the vise and crank everything tight while it's in the vise so that it doesn't leak air. I'm due for a new gun when it's time to paint this Jeep. I'm gonna try it out. Everybody swears by the Black Widow from Harbor Freight. It's a more expensive gun. I think they're between $200 and $300. But everybody swears by them, and every time I go to Harbor Freight, they're sold out of them. So I'm gonna pick one of those up and I'm gonna give it a try. So unfortunately, I don't deal with any tool trucks anymore. I stay off Matco and Snap-on and Mac and all of those guys. I stay off their trucks. I spent so much money on those trucks. I'm not doing it anymore. So we'll just go to Harbor Freight. We'll pick up one of their guns. They're little disposable guns. They're $30 guns or whatever. They're not bad. I use them. I have a couple of them around here. I think one's hanging up on the wall over there as decoration. Me personally, they're great for primer. Don't really care for them for base coat and clear coat, but they're perfectly fine to use for that. It's just my preference. So, but those are decent guns. If you're a beginner, go pick one up. Okay, so I got some white in the gun. We're gonna get the first coat on here. Okay, so that's the first coat. I'm gonna shut down the cameras. I don't want to get overspray all over them, so I'll bring you guys back in when it's time to start some artwork. Don't do as I do, wear a mask. I do always wear a mask, but sometimes when it's small stuff like this and, you know, doing a video, I should probably show that I wear a mask on video to show something good, but you know, I will put on my mask and wear my mask. I have it, it's hanging up over in the corner over there. So you know, when I do whole cars, I get all geared up, wear a mask, everything. So but usually when I'm doing small artwork stuff, I don't always wear a mask. For one, it's very restricting. I have a hard time breathing in them. I get claustrophobic. And I start sweating from them and it starts dripping. And when I'm doing artwork, I don't want to be dripping sweat all over it. So, but while I finish painting these, I'll put my mask on. When it comes time to clear them, I'll put my mask on. So, But I'm gonna shut you guys down while I put the next few coats on here. Once we get it in white and we're ready to start doing some artwork, I'll fire the cameras back up. So I'm gonna go put you guys in the house so you guys don't get any overspray on you. I'll be back. Okay, we're back. After getting the white on there, I put 4 coats on. Now I really want to start doing the artwork, but I think I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'm going to go in and eat some lunch. So we're going to just leave it at this and let it dry for several hours, and I'll come back out here a little bit later on this evening, and we'll start doing some artwork on it. So thanks for joining us with this process. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm out. Oh.